We've all had that moment, a name on the tip of your tongue, the search for car keys that are right in your hand. It's easy to laugh off, but sometimes a deeper, colder fear flickers behind the humor. Is this normal or is it something more? Most people swing between dismissing these moments and silent panic, never truly understanding the difference, but 99% will miss the final chapters, where we don't just list signs, but uncover the profound reasons why they happen and how early awareness is your single most powerful tool for shaping the future. This is not about fear, it's about empowerment. Don't skip it. Living library. Before we venture into a discussion of specific signs, we must first reframe our understanding of the brain itself. We often think of it as a computer, a machine that stores data and simply wears out over time. This is a deeply flawed and disempowering metaphor. I want you to imagine your brain not as a machine, but as a vast, living, and ever-changing ecosystem, like a vibrant rainforest or a sprawling ancient city. This city has countless neighborhoods, each with a specialized function, all interconnected by an intricate network of pathways and communication systems. Your memories are not files stored in a drawer. They are like stories held by countless librarians, each knowing how to find a piece of information by working with the others. The health of this brain city depends on the vitality of its infrastructure. It needs clear roads, healthy blood vessels, a process supported by our angiogenesis defense system to deliver oxygen and nutrients. It needs a skilled sanitation crew, our glymphatic system, which clears out metabolic waste while we sleep, to keep the streets clean. It requires a diligent repair crew, our regenerative stem cells, to maintain the buildings and pathways. It has its own neighborhood watch, our immune system, that protects it from invaders and internal threats. This is a dynamic, living entity. From this perspective, we can see that brain health is not a passive state, but an active process. The profound concept of neuroplasticity tells us that this city is constantly remodeling itself based on our experiences, our thoughts, and our actions. We are not just residents of this city, we are its architects and its caretakers. Our lifestyle choices, the foods we eat, the way we move our bodies, the quality of our sleep, our social engagement, are the signals we send to all the workers who maintain this magnificent metropolis. When we speak of cognitive decline, we are often speaking of a disruption in these interconnected systems. The communication is breaking down, the infrastructure is falling into disrepair, or the defense systems are becoming overwhelmed. Understanding this living, responsive nature of the brain is the first and most crucial step. It moves us from a place of fear to a position of informed stewardship. Normal changes. Now, it is absolutely essential that we draw a clear line between the normal cognitive changes that can accompany aging and the more concerning patterns that may signal a deeper issue. The fear of dementia often causes people to catastrophize completely normal memory lapses, leading to unnecessary anxiety. A healthy, aging brain does experience some changes. It is not a sign of disease, it is a feature of a life richly lived. Think of it like this: the librarian in your brain city has spent 70 years collecting books. The library is immense. Sometimes it simply takes a little longer to find a specific, rarely used book on a high shelf. This is normal. Normal age-related forgetfulness might look like this: occasionally forgetting a name or an appointment, but remembering it later. It might be misplacing your glasses or the television remote from time to time. You might sometimes struggle to find the exact right word in a conversation, a phenomenon often called the tip of the tongue feeling. You might find you're a bit more easily distracted, or that it takes more effort to learn a complex new skill than it did when you were 20. These are typically minor inconveniences. A key feature of normal memory changes is that you are aware of your own forgetfulness. You might laugh about it or feel a moment of frustration, but you recognize the lapse. You know you forgot something and can often retrace your steps or eventually recall the information. These experiences do not typically disrupt your daily life in a significant way. You are still able to manage your finances, follow a recipe, drive to familiar places, and engage in your hobbies. This distinction is crucial. The goal here is not to induce worry over every misplaced item, but to provide a calm, clear baseline. Your brain is a vast and complex organ that has been processing an incredible amount of information for decades. Some slowing of its retrieval systems is to be expected and is not, in itself, a cause for alarm. Recognizing what is normal is the first step toward responsibly identifying what might warrant further attention. It allows us to approach this topic with observation and wisdom, not with panic. Disruptive memory. Here we cross the line from normal age-related changes to the first potential red flag. The first sign is not simply memory loss, it is memory loss that disrupts daily life. This is a critical distinction. It's the difference between forgetting where you parked your car in a large parking lot and forgetting how to drive the car itself. It is about a pattern of forgetting that is so frequent or severe that it begins to interfere with your ability to function independently and safely. This goes far beyond a momentary lapse. This might manifest as repeatedly forgetting important dates, events, or appointments that you would normally remember. It's asking for the same information over and over again, not because you weren't paying attention the first time, but because the new information simply isn't being encoded and stored. The brain's save button seems to be malfunctioning. The story told by the librarian is vanishing as soon as it's heard. A person might begin to rely heavily on family members or extensive note-keeping systems for things they used to manage on their own. The forgetfulness is no longer a minor annoyance. It becomes a constant source of struggle and anxiety. Imagine making a cup of tea, a task you've performed thousands of times. Normal forgetfulness might be putting the tea bag in the cup and walking away, only to remember it 10 minutes later. Disruptive memory loss might be not knowing the steps to make tea at all, or asking your spouse repeatedly if you have already had breakfast when the empty bowl is right in front of you. You might see a person get lost in a conversation because they cannot recall the beginning of the sentence they just heard or spoke. They aren't just losing their keys, they are losing the thread of their own present moment. When you observe a pattern of memory loss that genuinely compromises a person's ability to navigate their day, to manage their responsibilities, or to maintain a coherent conversation, that is a sign that deserves gentle and compassionate attention. Problem solving? Beyond simple recall, a healthy brain is our primary tool for navigating the complexities of the world. This involves what neuroscientists call executive function. Think of the prefrontal cortex, the area behind your forehead, as the chief executive officer of your brain city. It's responsible for planning, organizing, strategizing, and problem solving. The second early sign of dementia often involves a new and noticeable difficulty in this domain. It's a challenge with planning or working with numbers that was not present before. This is a signal that the brain's CEO is struggling to manage its operations. This could appear as newfound trouble following a familiar recipe, a sequence of steps that used to be second nature. The person might forget an ingredient, lose their place, or struggle to execute the steps in the correct order. Another classic example is difficulty managing monthly bills or keeping track of finances. This is a task that requires concentration, organization, and sequential thinking. A person who was once meticulous with their budget might start missing payments, struggle to balance a checkbook, or become vulnerable to scams because their ability to assess risk and consequence is impaired. It's not about making an occasional math error. It's about a fundamental breakdown in the ability to manage multi-step processes. The problem might also manifest in a more abstract way. Following the plot of a complex movie or book can become a serious challenge. The ability to hold multiple pieces of information in mind, to see how they connect and anticipate what might happen next, begins to wane. A person might struggle to make a decision, even a simple one, because they are unable to weigh the pros and cons effectively. They might seem mentally stuck, unable to formulate a plan to solve a simple household problem, like what to do when an appliance breaks. When you see a loved one who was previously competent and organized start to consistently falter with these kinds of plan-based sequential tasks, it suggests that the problem may be deeper than simple forgetfulness. It points to a challenge in the very architecture of thought and planning. Familiar tasks. Our lives are built upon a scaffolding of countless familiar routines and tasks. These are actions we have performed so many times that they become automatic, embedded in what is known as procedural memory. We don't have to consciously think about the steps to brush our teeth, tie our shoes, or drive a car to a familiar destination. The third sign is a decline in the ability to complete these kinds of well-known, everyday tasks. It is a sign that this deeply ingrained muscle memory, governed by a different part of the brain city, is also beginning to falter. This can be a particularly disorienting and frustrating experience for the individual. Imagine a person who has played a particular card game every week for 30 years suddenly being unable to remember the rules, or a skilled home cook who can no longer figure out how to operate their own microwave or oven. This isn't about learning a new technology, it's about a loss of proficiency with a tool that has been used for years. The familiar becomes foreign. The automatic becomes a struggle. This sign might also manifest as difficulty with spatial tasks. A person might have trouble driving to a location they have visited hundreds of times, like the local grocery store or a friend's house. They might take wrong turns or feel suddenly lost in their own neighborhood. The mental map of their world, once so clear and reliable, has become blurry and unreliable. This isn't just about forgetting an address, it's about the loss of the intuitive sense of direction that we rely on every day. It can also appear in simpler ways at home, struggling to get dressed properly, putting clothes on in the wrong order, or being unable to manage the remote control for a television they have used for years. The world, which was once a place of comfortable competence, starts to present a series of confusing and insurmountable puzzles, even in the most familiar of settings. Confused reality. Our brain performs the constant miraculous task of orienting us within the world. It anchors us in the continuous flow of time and in the physical space we occupy. The fourth and fifth early signs involve a breakdown of this fundamental orientation. A person may begin to show significant confusion with time or place. This goes beyond forgetting what day of the week it is, which can happen to anyone, especially after retirement. This is a more profound disorientation. A person might lose track of the passage of seasons, the year, or significant upcoming holidays. They might believe it is a different decade altogether, or talk about preparing for an event that happened many years ago as if it were happening tomorrow. They may struggle to understand something that is not happening in the immediate present, finding concepts like "we'll see them next Tuesday" to be abstract and confusing. Time, which is normally a river we flow along, becomes a series of disconnected puddles, and they feel lost within it. Similarly, their sense of place can become distorted. We already mentioned getting lost while driving to a familiar location, but this can become even more fundamental. A person might forget where they are or how they got there. They might feel lost within their own home, unable to find the bathroom or their bedroom. This can be deeply frightening and is a clear sign that the brain's internal GPS is malfunctioning. The fifth sign is related and involves new problems with visual images and spatial relationships. This is not an issue with eyesight itself, but with the brain's ability to interpret what the eyes are seeing. A person might have difficulty reading text, judging distances, or determining color or contrast. This can make activities like driving not just difficult, but extremely dangerous. They might walk past a mirror and not recognize their own reflection for a moment, or struggle to place an object on a table, misjudging its edge. These signs indicate that the brain is struggling with its most basic job, to create a coherent and reliable model of reality. Language challenges. Language is the primary tool we use to connect our inner world with the outer world. It is how we express our thoughts, our needs, and our emotions. The sixth and seventh signs relate to a notable decline in a person's verbal and organizational abilities. A person developing dementia may experience new and troubling problems with words, both in speaking and in writing. This is different from the occasional tip of the tongue moment. It's a more pervasive struggle with communication. This might look like a person stopping in the middle of a conversation with no idea how to continue. They might have a thought they want to express, but be completely unable to retrieve the words needed to build the sentence. They may repeat themselves or struggle with vocabulary, calling familiar objects by the wrong name, referring to a watch as a hand clock, for example. Their speech can become halting and difficult to follow. Their sentences might become simpler, or they might rely on gestures more than words because verbal expression has become so taxing. The bridge of language that connects them to others starts to show significant cracks. The seventh sign, which is related to organization, is misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace one's steps to find them. We all misplace things. The difference here is twofold. First, the items might be put in highly illogical places, such as putting a wallet in the refrigerator or car keys in the sugar bowl. Second, and more importantly, is the loss of the ability to think backward in time. A healthy person who loses their keys can typically think, okay, I came in the door, I put the mail down here, then I went into the kitchen. They can mentally reconstruct the recent past. A person with dementia may lose this ability for executive self-tracking. This leads not just to lost items, but sometimes to a state of paranoia. They cannot find their glasses because they can't retrace their steps, so their brain, trying to make sense of the situation, may leap to the conclusion that someone must have stolen them. Altered judgment. One of the most subtle, yet socially significant early signs of dementia involves a change in a person's judgment and decision-making abilities. Our ability to make sound judgments is a complex cognitive function that relies on memory, reasoning, and the ability to understand social norms and future consequences. The eighth sign is a pattern of decreased or poor judgment that represents a clear departure from the person's former self. This is often one of the most worrying signs for family members. This might manifest in financial decisions first. A person who was once frugal and cautious might suddenly start spending money irrationally, giving large sums away to telemarketers or falling for obvious scams. Their ability to assess risk and protect their own interests becomes compromised. They simply do not see the danger that would be apparent to them before. It can also appear as a marked decline in personal grooming and hygiene. A person who was always meticulously dressed might start wearing stained clothes, forget to bathe, or seem unconcerned with their appearance. The part of the brain that manages these social and self-care protocols is no longer functioning properly. This decline in judgment can also affect social interactions. A person might make inappropriate or tactless comments, losing the natural filter that governs polite conversation. They might lose their sense of social cues, speaking too loudly, or oversharing personal information in a way that is out of character. This isn't an intentional act of rudeness, it's a symptom of a brain that is losing its ability to navigate the complex, unwritten rules of social engagement. When you see a consistent pattern of choices and behaviors that are not just unusual, but genuinely unwise or unsafe, and this represents a distinct change from their past personality, it is a significant red flag that deserves attention. It signals a potential weakening in the brain's ability to guide safe and appropriate behavior. Social withdrawal. Human beings are social creatures. Our brains are wired for connection. The ninth and 10th signs reflect the profound impact that cognitive decline can have on a person's emotional and social life. A person struggling with the previously mentioned challenges may start to withdraw from work, hobbies, or social activities they once loved. This withdrawal is often not a sign of disinterest, but a coping mechanism. It is a protective retreat from a world that has become confusing, overwhelming, and difficult to navigate. Imagine the mental effort it takes to follow a fast-paced conversation when you struggle to find words or remember what was just said. Think about the anxiety of participating in a card game when you can no longer hold the rules in your mind. The joy of these activities is replaced by stress and the fear of embarrassing yourself. So, rather than face that potential failure, it becomes easier to simply decline the invitation, to say you're tired, to stay home. This social withdrawal can create a dangerous feedback loop. We know from extensive research that social engagement is a powerful stimulant for brain health. As a person withdraws, they lose that crucial source of cognitive and emotional stimulation, which can, in turn, accelerate their decline. The 10th sign, closely related, is a noticeable change in mood and personality. The delicate chemistry and wiring of the brain that regulate our emotions can be profoundly disrupted. A person may become uncharacteristically confused, suspicious, depressed, fearful, or anxious. They might become easily upset or angered, particularly when they are in an unfamiliar environment or when their routine is disrupted. Their personality, the very essence of who they are, may seem to flatten or change. A once easygoing person might become irritable and paranoid. A once joyful person might become listless and apathetic. These shifts are not character flaws, they are neurological symptoms. They are the outward expression of the immense internal struggle and confusion the person is experiencing as their perception of reality begins to unravel. The path forward. Confronting these signs, whether in ourselves or in a loved one, is undeniably daunting. But knowledge, when wielded with compassion, is not a weapon of fear, it is a lamp in the dark. Recognizing these patterns early does not seal a person's fate. On the contrary, it opens the door to the most powerful tool we have, proactive care. It allows for a medical diagnosis, which is crucial to rule out other, sometimes reversible, causes of cognitive symptoms, such as vitamin deficiencies, thyroid problems, or medication side effects. An early diagnosis also provides access to support, resources, and potential therapies that may help manage symptoms and preserve quality of life. But more than anything, it allows us to respond with empathy instead of frustration. It allows a family to understand that the frustrating question asked for the 10th time is not an act of willful ignorance, but a symptom of a struggling brain. It transforms our perspective. This is not about fighting a losing battle, it is about learning how to support the person, to adapt the environment, and to focus on the strengths that remain. It's about remembering that the essence of a person, their history, their capacity for love, their fundamental humanity, endures far beyond the erosion of their memory. We can't always cure the brain, but we can always care for the person. This knowledge empowers you to become a better advocate for your own brain health and for the health of those you love. It calls you to focus on the pillars that support that brain city we spoke of: a diet rich in brain protective foods, regular physical activity that nourishes blood vessels, quality sleep that allows for cellular cleaning, and deep social connections that keep the city vibrant. This is not a message of despair. It is a call to conscious, compassionate awareness. It is about choosing to walk forward with understanding, to replace fear with love, and to honor the profound journey of a human life in all its seasons. For me, the distinction between normal forgetfulness and disruptive memory loss brought a lot of clarity. Which part of this discussion most resonated with you or helped you understand this complex topic in a new way?